Is tracking the week. Retired police officers under the contributory pension scheme on Monday rejected the current federal government approved contributory pension scheme for members of the Nigerian police force, demanding to pull out from the arrangement. Led by the 2023 presidential candidate of African Action Congress and a renowned civil rights activist, Omoyele Sowore, the protesters marched from the police headquarters to the National Assembly's gate in Abuja. Armed with placards bearing different inscriptions, they chanted songs as they marched in support of the retired officers. Some of the retirees, in an emotion-laden voice, narrated how they had served Nigeria for 35 years without being rewarded according to their efforts. In the same vein, the leader of the protest, Sowore, described the attitude of police authorities towards the rank and file as unfortunate. Also on Monday, the Federal High Court Abuja on Monday turned down a request by the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, seeking for the release of his international passport, saying that the medical report attached to the application was not signed by its maker. Justice Emeka Nwite, while delivering the ruling at the resumed hearing of the alleged money laundering case filed against the former governor by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, however, said that contrary to the submission of the prosecution team, the application was not an abuse of court process. The defendant had applied for the release of his travel documents to enable him travel to the United Kingdom for medical attention. The judge said counsel to the defendant argued that the applicant was a known hypertensive patient for about 15 years. The lawyer Joseph Dauda San was also said to have presented Exhibits A and B, which constituted expert reports on the health status of the applicant, saying that sufficient materials had been placed before the court to exercise its discretion in favor of the applicant. The judge also recalled that the prosecution team argued that the application was an abuse of court process. On Tuesday, it is estimated that Nigeria loses $18 billion annually to illicit financial flows due to profit shifting and aggressive tax avoidance practices by some multinational corporations transacting business in Nigeria. The Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Doris Uzoka Anite, made the disclosure at the National Dialogue on Combating Illicit Financial Flows organized by the Federal Inland Revenue Service held in Abuja. Addressing participants at the event, the Minister of State for Finance, Doris Uzoka Anite, said illicit financial flows remains the hidden drain pipes of the national wealth, noting that huge sums of money are transferred out of the country, which strips the country of resources that could be used to finance much needed public services. Also speaking at the opening section of the meeting, the Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Dr. Zach Adedeji, added that illicit financial flows through tax evasion, profit sharing, money laundering, and trade misinvoicing do not merely represent financial wrongdoing but constitute a structural drain on the economy, depriving Nigeria of the resources needed for inclusive development. Still on Tuesday, the House of Representatives has approved a sum of over 1.485 trillion naira from the Rivers State Government Statutory Revenue Fund as the state's budget for the 2025 fiscal year. The approval follows the Senate's earlier passage of the same proposal. The breakdown includes over 256 billion naira for personnel costs, 162 billion naira for overheads, and more than 1 trillion naira allocated to capital expenditure. During deliberations, some lawmakers argued that the budget should cover only the tenure of the current sole administrator pending the return of the elected governor. Others, however, insisted that since it's an annual budget, it should be treated as such. The House ultimately adopted the annual format. Also on Tuesday, Oyo State Governor Engineer Seyi Makinde has paid an official condolence to the family of the late Olubadan of Ibadanland, Oba Owolabi Olukulehin, who passed away on July 7, 2025. During the visit, Governor Makinde expressed his heartfelt sympathies to the Olakulehin family and the Olubadan in council while reflecting on his administration's efforts to stabilize and strengthen the Ibadan traditional institution. The governor acknowledged the support of the Olubadan in council, noting that their cooperation played a key role in averting what could have become a prolonged leadership crisis within the Ibadan traditional system. He added that the reforms undertaken would serve to sustain the institution for at least the next 50 years. On Wednesday, President Bola Tinubu has written to the Nigerian Senate to request the confirmation of Professor Yusuf Mohammed Yusuf as a commissioner of the Nigerian Law Reform Commission (NLRC). The request, conveyed in a letter addressed to Senate President Godswill Akpabio and read during Wednesday's plenary session, was made in line with Section 21 of the Nigerian Law Reform Commission Act 2022. According to the president, the nomination of Professor Yusuf is to replace Professor Fatima Alkalai, who was earlier nominated on June 2, 2025, but failed to appear before the Senate for screening and confirmation. Senate President Akpabio has referred the nomination to the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters for further legislative action. The committee is expected to review the nomination and report back to the Senate with its recommendations in due course. Still on Wednesday, the federal government on Wednesday announced the release of the 2025 Common Entrance Examination into the 80 unity schools across the country. A total of 64,578 candidates registered for the 2025 NCEE, 61,290 candidates sat for the examination, while 3,288 were absent. It is reported that the Minister of State for Education, Professor Suwaiba Ahmed, while presenting the major highlights of the examination to newsmen in Abuja, said the highly competitive examination, which is administered every year to Nigerian children, both at home and abroad, who desire to gain admission into 80 federal unity colleges spread across all parts of the country. Also on Wednesday, healthcare in Nigeria faces a potential crisis as medical doctors across the country prepare to embark on a nationwide strike. Nigerian Medical Association (NMA) issued a 21-day ultimatum on July 2nd to July 23rd, 2025, demanding a controversial salary and allowance circular from the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission. With just days left before the expiration of a 21-day ultimatum, doctors are demanding the immediate withdrawal of a controversial government circular they say threatens the welfare of medical practitioners and sustainability of the healthcare system. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors issued this fresh warning to the government, citing unpaid salaries, poor working conditions, and lack of adequate medical equipment. The Nigerian Medical Association (NMA), through its president, Professor Bala Audu, has declared its readiness to shut down health services across the country if the federal government does not respond decisively to concerns raised over a new directive from the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission (NSIWC). It was gathered that the doctors are demanding immediate payment of wage arrears and improved funding for public hospitals. According to the spokesperson, several letters and meetings with government officials have failed to produce any tangible results. On Thursday, the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, has affirmed that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's bold policies are being implemented in the interest of Nigerians, emphasizing that the administration has created an enabling environment for serious business operations in the country. He identified some of the bold initiatives taken by the administration in this regard, to include the removal of fuel subsidy, the realignment of the multiple exchange rate system, and the ongoing tax reforms in the country. Senator Shettima, who stated this when he met with the newly elected executives of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture (NACCIMA), led by the national president, Engineer Jani Ibrahim, on a courtesy visit to the presidential villa Abuja, assured the Association of President Tinubu's support. Earlier, the national president of NACCIMA, Engineer Ibrahim, explained that he became the national president of the association and chairman of the organized private sector a month ago at the annual general meeting of NACCIMA, where new executive members were elected. Still on Thursday, the House of Representatives has approved a $21.8 billion borrowing plan for the federal government, including an additional $47 million for the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway and $300 million for the Nigerian Universal Communications Access Project. Chairman of the Committee on Aid, Loans and Debt Management, Honorable Abubakar Nalaraba, presented the report, which was adopted during the Committee on Supply section. The House also approved the 2025 budget of 105.1 billion naira for the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, based on a report submitted by Honorable James Faleke, Chairman of the Finance Committee. Also on Thursday, the Federal High Court sitting in Ikoyi, Lagos, has declared illegal the attack and arrest of protesters during the peaceful protest held on 20th of October last year. The court ruled that it is outrightly illegal for police or government to deprive Nigerians of the right to assemble or voice out whatever grievances they may have about the way the nation is being run. The court justified the decision of a group of people to observe anniversary of Lekki Tollgate EndSARS protest saga, which the police attacked the peaceful protesters and arrested many of them. On Friday, the federal government has announced plans to unveil a 50 million naira student venture capital grant to support innovation, entrepreneurship, and economic development among science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medical sciences students. This is contained in a statement issued on Friday in Abuja by Mrs. Folashade Boriowo, Director of Press and Public Relations, Federal Ministry of Education. According to the statement, the initiative will be formally unveiled in August by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa. It said the SVCG was designed to empower full-time undergraduate students in tertiary institutions, especially those in 300 levels and above, to build scalable job-creating ventures. Quoting the minister during a recent stakeholders engagement, she said the grant represents a strategic investment in Nigeria's knowledge economy. He added that the initiative aims to equip students with tools to develop practical solutions across sectors such as technology, medicine, agriculture, and green energy. Each selected student-led project will be eligible to receive startup funding of up to 50 million naira, alongside access to mentorship, incubation services, and business development support. The program will be implemented in partnership with the Bank of Industry (BOI) to ensure transparency, impact assessment, and effective project delivery. Lastly, on Friday, Governor Seyi Makinde has taken over the supervision of Ministry of Culture and Tourism in order to elevate the sector to international standards and unlock its vast economic potential. Governor Makinde made the announcement during the second edition of Oyo State International Tourism Summit 2025 held in Ibadan. The governor, who cited the need to eliminate institutional bottlenecks and prevent mistrust in the ministry, stressed that tourism must be fully embraced as a viable business venture. He emphasized that the program was not merely a celebration of culture, but a platform to showcase the state's rich cultural heritage and highlight the economic potential of tourism. Governor Markinde outlined key executive level commitments aimed at advancing tourism, including establishing a dedicated tourism investor licensing unit, ensuring transparent communication, and introducing a fair and enforceable tourism compact. And that's all we have for you on Tracking the Week.